Twitch.
We are live.
Morning. Let me stream as well. Oh, I forgot to adjust that. Oops. Let's doing it live. Oh no, that's right. I adjust the window, not that. All right, hang on. Hello, everyone. Yes, yes, the window is resizing if you're watching this on Twitch, as I get it right. I really should switch to Skype or something so we can use the more fancy placement. I can just, using OBS, which is what I'm streaming with, the thing everyone uses. You can actually pick out individual people's frames and then put them in little spots in OBS. As you probably know, Chill use OBS as well. Mm-hmm. Martin, you stream? You do, don't you?
Not on my own, no.
Ah, okay.
Not yet. I've been looking at it, but not yet.
Right. If you've got the bandwidth, why not? I never do either, because unlike Chill, I just can't just talk.
It's a different way to play, I tell you that.
Yes, but Chill, you are the extrovert between us. Leaning in that direction.
In that direction, yes.
Or at least on the fence.
As we found out last week, you know.
Yes.
We MMO players can only lean so far, apparently, for the most part.
Indeed. All right, this is episode 276, being recorded on the 1st of September, or the 2nd, for Martin and myself, only just for Martin. We don't actually have, there's a bit of news, tiny bit, but mostly we'll be talking to Martin about playing SWTOR and living with fibromyalgia as a thing. Yeah, guys, you may see extra stuff in the rundown, but I'll probably be ignoring a lot of that. We'll just skip all that. I just push past that one forward until it's so old I just delete it. So there's always extra content that I have to fill in with, but yeah. Alright, let's see. I need to start recording in a second. You are both recording, just final confirmation.
Yep, have been for a while.
No, Dekion, it is not September 2nd. Not in your part of the world. Not yet, but I'm sure it will be shortly. Or in a few hours at least. Alright, tweeting as OotiniCast. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. Wow, small world. How common is fibromyalgia? I actually saw a statistic which was a lot higher than I thought it was, but I don't remember what it was.
The commonality is not that obvious because it's been sort of more and more people have come across it in recent years, and so more and more people getting diagnosed with it. It's probably been around for a lot longer, but research has been lagging, let's say.
Alright, we should save this for the conversation though. I did hear that they've actually finally identified a potential cause, as in a whole lot of extra nerves or something. It was weird.
Yeah, well, as to whether the nerve damage is the cause or whether that is a massive symptom issue. Some people can get it through an infection. Yeah. Some people just randomly develop it. Everyone is different, and that's why it's a complicated beast. Which I'm sure we'll get onto. Yep.
All right. So let's save that because content is good. Yeah, so I may have commented previously that this is the big drought before we all drown under that avalanche of information that will come with New York Comic Con and the Knights of the Eternal Throne information. In fact, we've got this interview that Hawk pointed us to. Hawk and Spencer Quinn pointed us to. With Charles Boyd, which we'll talk about next week, because I want to save it, because I don't want to use up everything, because who knows what will happen in between.
Right, we've got too interesting of a guest to talk to today.
Indeed. All right, so enough screwing around. Martin's got to go to bed soon, given it's nearly 1 a.m. his time. All right, let's do it.
All right, let me take a little water here. Okay, going in 5.
Sorry, keep going.
Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that has sent its most daring pilot on a secret mission to Jakku. This is episode 276, being recorded on Thursday, September 1st, 2016. I'm your host, Chill, with our producer and co-host, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey, guys.
And our guest today
Hi.
is Martin back. He is also known as Fibro Jedi, and we're going to be talking all about playing and living with a chronic condition that causes pain called fibromyalgia. Hi, Martin.
Hi, thanks for having me back.
Yeah, nice to see you again. And what have you been up to the last couple weeks?
Well, there's been a lot going on with work, so I haven't had as much sort of downtime, blogging time as what I would have had normally. The last couple of weeks, gaming-wise, I've been trying to find other non-Fallen Empire content to allow me to play a lot easier, and I'll come on to why that is a bit later. And that's been interesting. I found quite a bit out there. There's still some stuff I haven't touched, which is good. And been trying to find time to blog, but with work and everything else, it's not that straightforward, as I'm sure you'll appreciate.
Yes. Life finds a way.
Unfortunately so.
All right. And Tio, how about your week?
Yeah, so I did try to play, but then the authentication servers were down because apparently EA was being DDoSed.
Oh,
we will talk
that
about
time.
that later.
Yeah, I bet we will.
Yeah, but aside from that, real life and work and assignments being due, with another assignment due on Monday. So I have my work cut out for me. I didn't leave it till the last minute exactly, but there's just a lot of stuff to do. So anyway, real life. Maybe next week I'll actually have time to play, and hopefully the EA servers won't be under attack. They're not releasing
That would
another
be
game,
nice.
are they, next week? Yeah, anyway. Back over to you, Joel.
Okay, well, let's do a shout out to the chat room. And let's see, we've got Commander Jet 123 and Korjan. Is that you, Martin?
That's me, yeah.
Okay.
And you pronounced it correctly the first time. No one ever does
good.
that.
I do my best. Count Luku is here, Dekion, Dispel53, Farseer, Gahana, Hawk, Hyperspazin, Eleva, Josfan, Kidley, Matasur, I guess, Moraland, Sorta Revan, the Giblin, Trig PT, Jarna, and let's see, I think, yes, okay. And thank you everyone for coming. And what I did this week was pretty basic. I just got a couple of sessions in, not as much as I did the week before. I'm still working on dark side character leveling, now past the class story, and I'm into... Well, I was using flashpoints, and now I'm sort of in the pre-area where you do the few flashpoints that lead up to Rishi and Yavin. So I figure I'll just do Rishi and Yavin on the dark side character. Then for the light side character, just do flashpoints all the way up, try to get that done, and then hopefully that'll be about the time when it's time to do the Kotfi stuff. So yeah, but really just got a couple sessions in this week, so not too much to talk about. So we'll move on to the tip of the week. We've got 4 tips this week. I'll start us off with one from Michael. Okay, yes, Michael Kaller of the Noble Warriors Guild on Jedi Covenant. If you see how this is spelled, you would know why I had trouble pronouncing Michael. He writes, just wanted to share a tip to help get through the level grind for the DVL event. That'd be, of course, Dark versus Light Side. I'm sure this has probably been mentioned before, but not having had to level tunes in a while, it definitely wouldn't hurt repeating it. Create all the tunes you plan to level for Dark versus Light at one time, and log them off in your stronghold or guild ship. That way, while you're leveling one tune, the others will be gaining rested XP. Once all the rested XP on a tune is exhausted, log out in a stronghold and grab one of the others. Then simply repeat the process. By cycling through the tunes, you should have rested XP bonus for most of the leveling process, which should help it get less grindy.
That's genius.
Michael?
Yeah, that is a
Yes.
great
Yeah, I'd
idea.
not thought of that.
Yes, wouldn't work for me because the way I stream and everything, it would get in the way of what I need it to be like. But but I totally would do it if I was just soloing on my own.
You'd have a lot of editing to do afterwards if you were just going to keep going to the stronghold and back all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah, and I suppose you weren't able to do this previously, of course, because it would take a while to actually get to a rest area after you create a character. But now, of course, you just pop them into your stronghold and you're done. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next tip is from Johnny, our old friend, born to eat bacon, who refers to himself as the Dark Lord of Pork Products. Anyway, hey guys, don't want you to run low on tips again. Thank you, mate. So thought I would share this. Want to make Kotfi more amusing? When you're stuck with Koth as a companion, set him in tank mode and see how far he can go alone. Now don't go healing him, you big softy. Just trigger a fight, sit back and watch him run right into the fray. When cleaning the pests out of the gravestone, he made it from the front door to the giant spider-looking thing. Spoilers. She killed him. After the battle, I went over to gaze at his motionless corpse laying in swamp water. How can I not get dark sides for that? Keep up the good fight, use this tip only out of desperation, and may the force be ever in your favour.
That spider
Very nice.
always kills Koth unless you've given him a whole bunch of gifts first. He can't beat it on his own. I tried.
Oh well.
All right, third tip from DR2000 of our own Utini Knights and Utini Rage. DR2000 writes, I'm sure everyone knows that after 4.0, when you're doing heroics, you're getting sets of gear. These sets are all class-specific, and they have specific names, which are tied to the planets, starting from the very first one all the way to the end. For example, Thermal for Hoth, or Fractured for Makeb. However, it is very easy to over-level each set before getting a chance to collect a full one. The easy way to fix that problem is the fact that the gear provided for doing your class story and planetary story arc has the same look. Same gear as heroic, only of green quality instead of blue. Also, the starter planet has the same gear as a capital world. That's the reason why and how I like leveling all my new characters. I want to collect all the sets for every class. Keep up the great work with the podcast, and attached is a screenshot of my work in progress on my Jedi Knight.
Which I'll include in the show notes.
Ah, yes, lots of gear, and he's got it line by line by line for different slots. Very nice.
Far too organised.
Yes, far more than I am.
And also, Trig PT reminds us the tip about the Rested XP. Rested XP is a subscriber perk, so if you've no idea what we're talking about, subscribe and you will find out. Alright, so Cal has the last tip. My tip is more of a community service announcement instead of a tip. When buying stuff from the Cuttle Market, remember that only items contained in packs go into your item stash. If you buy a server unlock for a new character and claim it, the unlock goes straight into your inventory and not into your stash. I'm assuming this goes for weapons and armor as well. As most of these items are BOE, buy not equip, you can still mail them to an alt when the cooldown finishes, but if like me, or Tio for that matter, you have way too many alts, if only I still did, but they've gone to that special place. If you have way too many alts, it can be a pain to remember which toon has what. So basically, save time and make sure the toon you are claiming an item on is the toon you want it to be on. Cheers guys, Cal. And P.S. Tio, don't feel guilty about not playing much of the DVL event. It is definitely not an event aimed at you, as the rewards make leveling faster, which is something you don't like to do. That did occur to me actually, and the rewards themselves are like... there's no incentive here. Aside from the completionist aspect of it, and having things to tick off, which my kind of personality just loves. Give me a list, and working through it. Yeah.
Well, there's the companion. That's kind of cool.
Well, whichever one of our Heisenberg companion we end up with. Well, actually, it's pretty much guaranteed now to be the light side. I just checked the DVL needle, and it's still whatever.
Still creeping that
on
way?
the side of light side. Hadn't moved.
About 52%, wasn't it?
Yeah, they hadn't updated the HTML, I don't think, so it's still pretty much exactly where it was last time we checked.
And Fiber, did you want to read your note, or shall I?
No, that's fine, I can. Yeah, I also don't really like power leveling, or whichever word you want to use to describe it. I find you just focus too much on the end goal of being the highest level as quick as possible rather than enjoying the journey. So I've kind of done some of DVL, mostly to experience it, so I understand what other people are enjoying going through, and also the bugbears of why is this reward bound to my character when it is a Sith gear for a bounty hunter, and that kind of thing. But I'm not going to be doing it for much longer because I much prefer to take my time over leveling. So you're not the only one.
Excellent. The winner then is, by random allotment, Michael. Congratulations, Michael. You're the winner of a Ton Fawn or M83R Droid pet code, courtesy of Bioware, and an OotiniCast provided cartel market pack from the latest shipment. And if you'd like a chance to win the same, please send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com by next Wednesday. And that will bring us to the holo feed. TL?
Oh, there's so little happening. Really. But that is to be expected in the lead up to New York Comic Con and the deluge that will be the announcement of Knights of the Eternal Throne, all of the details. So anyway, what is happening at the moment? Well, no events. The last event was the Raccoon Plague on Corellia. That finished on the 2nd of August, so it's been over a month since any in-game event was occurring. Was it, Martin?
I had a feeling Relics of the Gree was on. I could be wrong, but I thought I saw Gree
Someone tell me that's wrong.
delegates
I was
around.
just going by their page, because I hadn't actually heard of any events recently.
No, that's fine. They might have just had the random Gree creatures around Fleet, but I thought it was Gree. Someone in chat says it's Gree.
Gree last 2 weeks. Alright. They just didn't update their page.
At least I wasn't imagining it.
Yeah, okay. In fact, I'll just delete all of that and, alright, go over what I was going to talk about.
Right.
Game Update 4.7.1 is coming next week on Wednesday, the 7th of September. Now, you may recall last week and the week before, probably wondering, why is it a Wednesday rather than the usual Tuesday? And as Descartes and Place both pointed out, apparently you guys have a holiday, Labor Day, on Monday. And so, as Bioware have done in the past, if there's a holiday on the Monday, they actually delay the release for a day. So, presumably, they have time that week ahead of the actual release itself. So anyway, that's probably why it's a Wednesday. With 4.7.1, along with various bug fixes, is, of course, the bonus chapter, where you play as HK55, called the Shroud of Memory. Now, This is actually pinned on the SWOTOR Twitter feed. Play as HK55 and team up with Z00M, as in Zoom, on September 7th in Shroud of Memory. And of course, to have access to this, you would have had to have been subscribed from January 11th all the way through to the 1st of August to actually play that chapter. So, if you subscribed after that, I guess the answer is tough luck. Yeah. It still seems a little odd to be sort of making any kind of deal out of this. I mean, it's great for those of us who were subbed, but for everyone else... Anyway, though, that's coming next Wednesday. The only other thing of note this week was we're under attack. As I mentioned in my week, I did actually try to play and found the authentication servers were down. And that was apparently, it went on for several hours. This coincided with the release of the beta for Battlefield 1, the latest Battlefield set during World War One. We had, first I saw of it was on the Twitters. Josh Wayne asked whether anyone else was getting server crashes. Now, the timing on this does seem to all line up. Why a DDoS would cause a server crash doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It should just prevent people from logging into the game. I suppose there could be some other instability going on. It could be a coincidence, but maybe not. It all did seem to happen at roughly the same time. And various people responded, including Matt, Don, Trayan, Joseph Brown, Farsia. Servers were crashing, SWOTOR servers were going down. Now, apparently the cause of all this was a DDoS, a distributed denial of service attack on EA servers. And that was presumably because of the Battlefield 1 launch. And the responsible party, allegedly, well, they are claiming responsibility anyway, is Poodlecore. Yes, Poodlecore. Another hacker group. Yahoo. So, some script kiddies found themselves some toys and just causing havoc. Now, we talked about distributed denial of service attack before. All that means is they've managed to get a whole lot of computers all over the world to basically try to talk to the EA servers at the same time. And that is a really good way to take down any kind of server that isn't appropriately hardened to deal with that. And even the most sophisticated web service will eventually kill if you hit it with enough people. Now, how do they get so many people? Well, that's all that malware that you get installed on your computer, or your parents, or your older people, or whoever, the more naive. So they basically turn their computers into bots, and they're the ones who are actually doing all the attacking. So, yes. Hopefully, over time, as people get more educated, that will become less of a thing. But, of course, you can also hire, like, the Amazon AWS servers, where cloud servers. I mean, if you want to pay money, you can, and Google's got the equivalent, you could actually get them to spin up a whole lot of servers and start attacking people. Though hopefully those cloud servers would actually stop that if they detected it. Anyway, so that was all pretty bad. It lasted for several hours. There were various tweets from SWTOR that were trying to deal with this. It was hitting Europe, but then it was hitting the US as well. Yeah.
It was weird because I tried getting onto Shadowlands USA server about 10 times in 45 minutes, got kicked off.
Right.
And then someone else on Twitter said, Red Eclipse is fine, and I've got 7 or 8 characters there, so I just logged there and didn't have any problems. So it was really odd that it was happening in one part of the network and not the other, but it wasn't consistent, I don't think.
Right. Now, of course, a distributed denial of service attack could actually be, for example, a whole lot of players trying to get into the game, and
Could look like that.
yes, but at least in SWTOR's case, I can pretty much guarantee that is not the case, not right now.
Right.
However, Blizzard were experiencing a similar kind of attack, apparently, with World of Warcraft. So, given they just released their expansion,
Very big expansion.
Legion.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It sucks when it happens,
Yeah.
and there's pretty much nothing you can do about it. Except just wait, and eventually they get bored. Something else distracts them. Now, the only other thing, a bit of Star Wars news I wanted to bring up generally, was a site called SWANH.net, which is Star Wars New Hope.net. Now, I came across this quite a while ago. It is, in fact, a adaptation of Star Wars A New Hope, the entire story, but done as an infographic. As in, it is the entire story, beginning to end, in infographic form. It is the most amazing thing. If you look at it in real terms, it's just an image, a really, really long image. It is 123 meters long.
Goodness.
Yes, it was created by a guy named Martin Panshord. He's an illustrator and graphic novelist from Switzerland, in fact, and is currently living and working in Zurich. And yeah, he just created this using Adobe Illustrator. Wow, it's just
And a
huge.
lot of time.
I'm looking at it. It's pretty
Yeah.
amazing.
He says it took him approximately 1,000 hours. The long ribbon, he says, reminds him of the ancient Chinese script rolls that had to be rolled in and out as you sort of read it. So as you were reading it, you were sort of scrolling one direction, then rolling up in the other as you were just unraveling it. Yeah, so this is really cool. Whether he's going to do the other movies is unclear, because 1,000 hours. But geez,
Yeah.
it's just really cool. So it is worth checking out just for the sheer novelty value. That is one amazing piece of work.
Wow. Yeah.
Now, I also wanted to mention that Netflix change.org petition that was created, hoping to make a TV series, or convince Netflix to make a TV series out of Knights of the Old Republic. That era currently has 16,828 supporters, or at least it did a little while ago. So a lot of people are getting behind this. Whether, of course, Netflix, there's no obligation for them to accept it, and of course,
Right.
somehow I don't think Disney is any party to this at all, because they'd have to agree. Yeah, so it's a nice thought, and if it happens, it happens. It can't hurt to sign up. I mean, there is no downside here. Just make sure you unsubscribe from change.org so you don't get spammed after you sort of help the petition. But yeah, why not? Give it a go. I'll include the link in the show notes. Alright, one more thing. 3D printed Ebon Hawk. The Ebon Hawk was the starship from the Knights of the Old Republic. And I will link to it. Someone has created an awesome 3D model of it, and that is suitable for 3D printing. And I will include the
Nice.
picture from that these people have created. They've painted it as well. 3D printing is a thing. You can create pretty much anything with a 3D printer, as long as you can do a 3D model for it. And yeah, any starship is a perfect candidate, really. And that's the news. I did the best I
Alright,
could.
that brings us to the Academy. Yes. All right, that'll bring us to the Academy, and this week Swoterista tells us how to make credits. Thank you, Swoterista. And that'll bring us to the Force Feedback, where we read out your tweets and emails. We're going to start with Chicken Sith, who writes, I enjoyed the episode and the info. Funny how much Bill makes off of us customers. And Johnny replied, "That is an insane amount of credits. What server is he on? I want to know if I've contributed." Well, he's mostly on the Harbinger, as I understand it.
Yes.
Since he was always in our group, so. Let's see. Todd writes, "You guys mentioned Gordy Hobb on a recent episode. Check out the interview he did on Star Wars Oxygen, Volume 24 on Rebel Force Radio."
I only heard about this recently from Todd, so I will listen to that.
Okay.
Gordy Harp was one of the composers that we talked about last week, who was doing the recording using the live orchestra
Yay.
for Knights of the Eternal Throne.
Nice. Michael Butler writes in, "I love GSF. I must be an outlier too. I wish I was a rich outlier like Bill, though."
Indeed.
And Daniel writes, "Yes, Bill may be the 11th motive for MMOs. Glad you helped boost GSF numbers from what they were."
Yeah. I mean, it's niche at the moment, very niche. I still think that PvE version would be a runaway success.
Yes. Yeah, it was just really interesting to hear all those stats last week. So that was a lot of fun. If you haven't heard it, definitely go listen to sort of the last part of the show. Right, Johnny writes, "The latest OotiniCast with Daniel reminded me of this. It's a poster that says, 'Introverts, unite separately in your own homes.'"
Indeed.
And Daniel replied, "Why not? We outnumber them substantially if we never leave home." And
It's
Johnny
true.
said, "Yeah, not only do we outnumber them, but we are very introverted, while they are only slightly extroverts."
I've come across some pretty extroverted people.
I think Johnny's pitting the introverts and the extroverts inside the game against each other at that point. And Alex writes, "Fantastic show, guys. The Sarlacc Digest in this episode might be my favorite ever." Very
It's
cool.
always interesting to hear about other players and just what makes us all tick, particularly when it's surprising.
Yes. Shar L writes, "Hello there, OotiniCast. I found the results of Daniel's survey quite intriguing. BioWare's focus on story for Kotvi seems justified. However, I couldn't help but think back to a few months after SWTOR's launch, when players left the game in droves during SWTOR's great subscriber exodus of 2012. As one of the players who got his first experience with a rather abrupt decline in guild activity during that time, I noted that most of these departing players hadn't played more than 2 or 3 class stories. Consequently, I couldn't help but conclude that BioWare's attempt to establish story as a fourth pillar for MMORPGs fell short. I am not sure how this piece of SWTOR history correlates with the results of Daniel's survey. Thanks for continuing such a great podcast." And I don't know
May
what
the
that's
force be with
short
you
for. Okay. May the force be with you all. Char L.
So,
It's certainly possible that the exodus of a certain players, and possibly therefore certain types of players, might be affecting who is still in the game and who has joined the game later.
exactly. So it's become a self-selecting group who all like story, because that's why they're still around and paying any attention to SWTOR at all. They're the ones who did Daniel's survey, therefore they're all going to say they like story. I mean, that is an interpretation, whether correct or not, I don't know, but you could certainly make that the case.
Of course, it's hard to find ex-players of a game, because you don't sort of announce that online. Yes, I used to play this game and now I no longer do. So it's hard to find that as part of your research. You can only get the data that's available to you for that.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Oldu writes, I was just listening to last week's podcast about Daniel's survey findings, and I found it fascinating. Utterly brilliant. Kudos for all the work done by himself and everyone involved. And I'm now wondering if these results may go away towards pacifying some of the more vocal players who are against the customization improvements, for instance, and other parts of the game deemed secondary, but as BioWare and the survey now backs up, are apparently key facets of the game. It also confirms what we know about story, but I don't think we realize the size of the margin it has over everything else. Just some thoughts. Keep up the great work, guys. Yeah, the customization certainly was higher than I figured it would have been.
Indeed. And I suspect that part is constant, regardless of whether people are here for story or not. Everyone likes dressing their space Barbies.
Yes.
I think even I take at least some time to actually design the outfits of my characters. So, yeah.
Yep. And character creation and all that good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Sir Nobody writes, from listening to your shows, I've gotten the impression that the Dark versus Light achievements are only available until the event ends. In rereading the actual achievements in game, I noticed this little tidbit. The first 2 levels, reaching level 25 and reaching level 50 with a character, have the condition with any character during the Dark vs. Light event. The rest of the achievements have the slightly different condition, with a character created during the Dark vs. Light event. Does that mean that as long as I created the characters during the event and got one character to 50 during the event, I can then complete the highest levels of the achievement after the event has ended and still get credit?
Well, firstly, it could just be a wording problem, and they screwed it up a little bit, and it is limited to the DVL event, or it could be exactly as written. I will actually pass this question on to Eric Musco and see what we can find out, because that is a really good question.
That is a good question.
It's not clear.
Yeah.
Let's see. Peter Bartal writes, this looks so familiar. Oh, yes. Han Duo and Grippo, yes.
Sitting across each other a table in clearly a cantina. And yes, Han Duo is a smuggler, and Grippo is, of course, a Rhodian.
Yes,
Blank.
this is in the starting levels on Hutta.
Yep.
So, yeah. And James is claiming Grippo shot first. And Jesse of Stardust Legacy, don't miss the Wookiee and the Protocol droid playing Dejarik across the room too.
Gotta love those homages to the movies. Very cool.
Yep. All right, that will bring us to the Sarlacc Digest, where we go over the issues for 1,000 years. Or until Fibrogyda has to get the heck out of here.
Whichever happens first, yeah. Okay.
Yes. So, Martin, you'll give us some insight into living with fibromyalgia and how playing SWTOR has helped you.
Sure, okay. So, to those of you who are in chat, and there's quite a few people who are typing away there, if you have any questions, anything you want to know, feel free. I'm awake until I can no longer be awake, so feel free to ask questions in chat and then we'll see what we can do. To anyone who doesn't know what fibro is all about, because you've never heard it before, you've not known somebody with it, it's basically a chronic condition that basically you have it for most of your life that causes pain in most areas of the body in one way or another. There are various potential causes of it. There are as many different symptoms as there are people with it, which makes treating it really hard. So in terms of how this affects me gaming-wise, on the bad side, it's pretty disruptive to gaming, to be honest. So half the time I wear gloves. I don't know if anyone can see that. Fingerless gloves, so I can at least keep typing, because I get really bad pain in my hands. These compression gloves help increase the blood in my the blood flow in my hands, which decreases the pain. So that helps me. And as my job is also with computing, I have to be able to type. Right. So I have to manage that. The other thing about gaming, and you might have seen if anyone does follow me on Twitter, that intensity of games has an effect as well. So if a particular scene is intense, and this is often used as a sales pitch, particularly by companies like BioWare, the most intense encounter with whatever Valkorian, Arkan, whoever, right. That's actually a sales thing, because most people find intense a great thing to get into. You get engrossed by it. Great. However, for me, if something's too intense, my muscles can contract, cause me more pain, and therefore I can't do as much as other people would be able to. So, for example, there's certain elements I've not touched in Old Republic, such as I haven't touched the Eternal Championship yet, because that's an intense combating situation.
Right.
I've run 1 or 2 Star Fortresses, but only with other people, because I tried doing it solo, and A, I couldn't, and B, it hurt, so I didn't do it anymore. So the intensity of levels or gaming it makes it worse as well. Right. On the same line, stress aggravates pain in fibromyalgia in any situation. So usually they try and say to people who have it, reduce stress in your life, as though that's something you can just flick on and off. But stress again in games is good. You know, if you're feeling what your characters feel, then you're engaging with it more, and so to a certain degree, stress is a great thing in a game, but not for me. So, for example,
Right.
in the Gemini Deception chapter, the gas chambers are the worst parts for me, because I don't know where all the switches are, and you are dying at a much quicker rate than anywhere else in the level. So that doesn't work well for me. So that's why I've actually only run that chapter twice so far, and I've got 20 alts at the moment. So you can't. I have to manage that. And I think I can do it once a week, so I can do that Gemini Deception once a week if I want to. But that's pretty much my limit because of the pain it puts me in. So,
Are you?
yeah, go on.
Yeah. So stress and muscle tension both increase the pain. Are you
Yes,
able to
absolutely.
use like relaxation techniques or meditative techniques to sort of make yourself relax better?
Technically, it's different things in different moments. So sometimes, I don't know, reading a book or listening to music might work, but if it's so bad, it doesn't matter what state my mind is in. It doesn't mean my body will follow suit, although it's important to relax mentally, etc.
Right.
But from the mental relaxation, that's where gaming is really good for me, because it distracts me from the pain, or distracts me from real life things that would aggravate the pain otherwise.
Right.
So Salisbury asked
that's-
whether you have your room at a lower temperature, or the recommendation is to have your room at a lower temperature to lower stress. I haven't heard that one.
Temperature's a strange one, because technically if you apply like an ice pack to hurting muscles, it can take some of the inflammation out.
Right.
But if I put my hand in cold water, it wrecks. Equally, dry heat's really good. Quality summers that we don't have in the United Kingdom at all, they're good for me. Humidity is really bad. So it swings and roundabouts, and so one day heat could be good for it, and another day colder could be good for it, and it's not consistent, and that makes managing it pretty hard.
That would.
Yeah, but in terms of fibre and gaming, not all of it is bad. As I said, it's great for distraction, or what I would call escapism. So getting away from the real life. Some people use TV for that, or books, or whatever. I use gaming for that. On the other side about gaming and with my health condition is that actually I've managed to connect with other gamers. Full stop. So connecting with gamers has been a good encouragement for me, but also I've found people who game and have various health conditions. So you sort of become a niche of the society in that you're a gamer, and a niche because you've got a health condition, and you find people, and suddenly you can connect with them a lot more easily because you have something else in common. And that's been a really positive thing to come out of my online gaming community, is that people understand, and that's been really, really helpful. And also the ability to be able to blog about gaming and about my health has meant people have connected and said, thanks for sharing your story, that's really, really helped me. I've seen in the comments someone said, do the gloves really help? Amazingly so. So I think these were £15-20 maybe from Amazon. Before I found these, and I didn't find them actually, somebody on Twitter said, have you tried these? I said no, so I did. Before I used these, I used to sometimes have to take my strongest painkillers purely because my hands hurt more than the rest of me. Or I used to use a TENS machine, which is basically applies sound vibrations to the muscles to help them repair and relax. If I wear these, I don't have to do that. So at the moment, it's only first thing in the morning when they're really bad, because I can't wear these at night. And then I am sleeping on my hands, get pins and needles, whatever, and that makes them bad. But actually, these gloves, Amazon, they're technically designed for arthritis, so if you're looking for them, look for arthritis compression gloves, and you'll find them. And that's how I was told to find them. So whoever that was, let's see if I can find it. Farseer said, yeah, so that's that. You should look them up, definitely. I can always ping up a link and get that put into the show notes afterwards.
And Teal, I'm only seeing a freeze frame of you right now. I'm not seeing Martin at all.
Yeah, it's happened a few times. I can't fix it.
Okay. I think we're back to live, so...
Yeah, if I click on my own frame and off again, it looks like it is working. So it's just a Hangout screwing up.
I said the audio's fine, is it?
Right.
Yeah, audio's fine.
So Martin, it sounds like if you happen to get pins and needles, that's a particularly painful episode for you?
Anything that would be a normal irritant for other people is usually really painful to me. So suddenly being made jump, somebody makes you jump. That can suddenly make my shoulders do this. Which again, if you're thinking gaming audio, something suddenly happens that you weren't expecting.
Right. Yeah.
Which is
they
a
do
good
a jump
thing
scare on you
in a movie, or exactly. All these things that are technically good, I have to
Jump
manage
scares.
a bit more carefully than.
I assume
than
you
the
avoid
average
horror
person.
movies then.
I can't watch horror movies at
Right.
all. Yes,
Right.
you're quite right. I can't. Also plays on my mind. That's an oversensitivity thing that has a different effect.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm not very good with horror movies. Having said that, we watched the Star Wars Episode 7 when it came out, and we went to the midnight showing, which I've always wanted to do. So I've never managed to do it
Cool.
until this time. But it was actually at the end of a day, kind of like now, and I'd had a high pain day. And so I really enjoyed the movie, but the lightsaber battles, because they were purposefully less scripted, let's say, they're not like the old style episode 1, 2, 3, where they were using the fancy martial arts moves, but they were more gritty and on the edge. That put me in a lot of pain, which was a really real shame, because I really enjoyed the movie. But we've decided we'll just wait and do it at the 10 a.m. showing the next day for the next episode, and be a bit more sensible with it, which is a shame. But yeah, even things I enjoy don't necessarily result in lower pain levels. But
So
it doesn't mean I don't enjoy them. It's just a tough balancing act.
Wow.
Hawk asks, do you find it difficult to get out of bed most days? His daughter can barely move most days. She's had it when she was diagnosed when she was 25. And she has to will herself to do things. Do you find that?
Every morning. So my morning routine, if there is such a one, and I hold down a job 4 days a week, is that I can't get out of bed until my other half brings me food and coffee and my first 10 tablets of the day. Because I shouldn't take my tablets on an empty stomach, so I have to have the food. And my tablets are usually kicking in by the time I get to work at about 10 a.m.
Do you work at home, or you actually have to travel?
We travel most of the time. That might change when we have family in a couple of months' time. But because we employ 3 other people as well as ourselves, we have an office, so we've got a half an hour drive in. But yeah, mornings are awful. So I appreciate it if your daughter is struggling with that. She's not alone in that. Doesn't make it any better, but she's not unique in that.
Right.
But moving in the mornings is the hardest thing, and that doesn't matter whether it's a work day or a day off. Mornings are just a dreadful. And then there's a thing in fibromyalgia and other similar conditions called brain fog, which is basically it's really hard to think because your brain feels like it's surrounding cotton wool. So you sort of feel like you're treading through sludge just to get your brain to work, and so that happens in the mornings as well as the high pain. So that makes it that can make it really tricky.
How many pills do you have to take typically?
I think I'm roughly on about 30 a day.
Oh, jeez.
Goodness.
And that's reduced slightly since I put other things in place. But yeah, no, 30 a day is fairly standard. And some of the ones I'm on are highly controlled drugs. So the actual prescription, which unlike you people who are the other side of the pond and you have to pay exorbitant amounts of fees for your medication, in Scotland currently those are free. But we have to physically take the paper from the doctors to the pharmacy because it cannot be electronically transmitted.
Right.
Because they don't want to risk it being intercepted and being pounced on. And if for some reason I didn't finish using any, I have to return the unused ones so that people don't get hold of them.
Interesting.
So yes, that's been a development in the last year or so.
Curiously, I didn't realise there was another way of delivering prescriptions, because we certainly have to do exactly the same thing here. Prescription, paper, doctor, to chemist, and actually or pharmacy.
I think, and you won't believe they probably still do this, but when I was told I had to send it take it manually, they said it's so that we're not allowed to fax it. Do you realise people still faxed anything?
No,
I didn't until they said that. Yeah, email, I'd have thought, maybe they just think faxes is less likely to be intercepted than an email. I don't know, but no, usually they just fax them across. Apparently.
Wow.
All right, don't want to miss any questions. So Salisbury asked, do you take certain fish oil pills or other type of stuff that deal with blood flow, natural remedies, in other words, or are you sticking with the real thing?
Haha, right. So I haven't tried the fish oil pills, and I have been told that could possibly help. I have tried all sorts of other alternative therapies, such as acupuncture or certain herbal remedies, etc.
Please don't say homeopathy.
No,
Oh,
when I was younger, I tried it. It had no effect on me, but I have known it work for other people, so I can't. Well, I have known it work for other people, so I can't tell people not to try it.
Sure.
But with my condition, and I think people that also have things like asthma and some skin conditions, we don't retain magnesium, which is a nerve and muscle reparation substance that we should be having in our diet normally. So I do take double the recommended daily allowance of magnesium so that I retain roughly what I ought to get. So I do take that and vitamin D, because that also helps with the same thing. It also helps with mood, and especially here in Scotland where we don't get much natural sunlight, particularly in winter. Vitamin D is helpful for that. So although I'm not on random tablets in one sense, I am on stuff that has scientific foundation, let's say.
Yeah, that's good to know. Sort of Evan says, you being able to talk about it is helping them feel comfortable talking about Crohn's and irritable bowel syndrome, which are nasty in their own right.
I think one of the difficult things for anyone who's got a condition that is likely to be for the rest of their life, and certainly in my case is degenerative, so I'm worse this year than I was last year, is that there's a lack of understanding out there, and it is hard to talk to people, because people like to hear good news, they like to hear upbeat things, and certainly if you've got friends who day in day out saying, how are you doing, are you alright, to always hear, no I'm not, or it's been a really bad week, or whatever. I do try and remember when there is good news, and say, life is not all negative, there are positive things going on in life, but the reality is that health is not one of those good things. It can be hard to feel like you can talk to people because they don't want to hear bad stuff.
If they haven't got someone close who's actually experienced it themselves, it's difficult to have empathy, because it is difficult to imagine what it can be like, what it is like.
Oh, it totally is. I mean, even if it's a completely unrelated condition, if you've got a relative who is or has been ill for a very long time, empathy helps, and that's why it's trying to describe to people what it's like without trying to give them the emotional burden of it as well. Because when you're ill all the time, people have got to reset their expectations of what you're capable of, how much interaction you can have with them, etc. But you don't want them to be feeling guilty for asking you to do things or to go places or whatever. But it is important to find some form of network that is supportive. Thankfully I have family, there's 2 or 3 friends we've got, and I have found people in-game and people who are just generally connected on Twitter. I found social media a very helpful outlet for connecting with other people, to empathise with them as much to be empathised with. That's why I set up Fibre to Die in the first place, was to have a completely separate Twitter account to my work one, because I found if I tried to mention my health on my work Twitter account, I lost followers, which says a lot about the people, if I'm honest. But I just thought I was going to set it. Well, absolutely, and I thought I was just going to set up this thing to scream into the dark about fibre and generally about life, and no one would follow me, and I've been sort of blown over by the reaction, but it has helped me to connect with a whole bunch of people, so use it. And if people don't want to hear that you're ill again today and they unfollow you, then maybe they're not the right people to be connected with in the first place. It's not about the numbers, it's about the people that you are chatting to. So
right. And Martin, do you use, beyond the gloves, do you use like a special keyboard or mouse or like a Nostromo, anything like that to sort of help? Does anything like that help you game?
For gaming, no. I use my sofa, which we purposely selected because it has a really high arm here on the right-hand side. And so it sits naturally where my hand would rest normally. So it's got this wonderful elbow indentation in it now. And I just use a normal wireless mouse, but we had to go for whatever the biggest one was, which actually might seem to be getting smaller, so finding a big mouse is not simple, not within a reasonable price range anyway. In the work context, however, I do use gel wrist supports for typing, because the wrists can take a lot of burden when typing. And this is actually people who don't have any kind of health condition. You should have that in place anyway, else you can easily get RSI in your fingers or your wrists. And I have a gel wrist support mouse mat at work as well for exactly the same reason.
Definitely.
It's all about how your setup is. So this sofa here has a really high back. The indent here is perfect for my neck for when I'm gaming. And at work, we've got high back chairs. You can adjust the height and the angle, etc., to suit you. So you've got to make sure that your posture is right. So that's not just for people like me. It's actually for normal, healthy people, whoever you strange folk are. So yeah, no, it's how you set it up. If I had an actual gaming PC, I would probably have a completely different setup. But because I use a Windows partition of my Mac, I don't have to have a complicated setup. Just a nice sofa.
Very nice.
Hyperspace then asks, how long can you play for in a session? Long enough to do a Flashpoint or a Warzone?
I probably sit at my computer far longer than I ought to at any one stint. Mostly because I don't like... It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to move. It's harder to get up and move around. I have to get up every couple of hours probably to get myself a coffee. I can do flashpoints, but I don't group up with them very often so that I can take as long as possible. I found with grouping up for flashpoints, it's all about getting from start to finish.
People are impatient.
Rather than what it's like. Yeah, people are impatient, which is fine if that's how they want to play out, but I don't want to impose that on other people either. I do find... It depends on what I'm playing. So if I'm just gradually... So today I've been doing the Voss story arc, despite the fact that I finished the class story ages ago. That I can do for a lot longer because you can do it really slowly. With Fallen Empire chapters, they're an hour and a half to 2 hours for people like me. I know some people blitz through in 45 minutes. I'm not one of those people. But I have to have a bit more of a break after one of those because of the intensity thing we were discussing earlier. So enjoying the journey, but needing a break afterwards. So it depends on the type of content, how long I can sit there.
Hawk asks...
Farseer again. Sorry. No, I spotted Farseer saying, what about bath salts? Yes, kind of. So, magnesium, again, I think I've tried Epsom salts in the past, but magnesium salts are better because, from the reason that with fibromyalgia, again, you don't retain magnesium, back to why I took magnesium tablets earlier.
Sure.
But the skin absorbs magnesium and anything else far faster than when you take tablets in. So, having a magnesium bath gets it into all of your body and can help aching muscles in other places, and that's good for people who don't have health conditions as well. But definitely magnesium salts are good. That was Farseer.
Hawk was asking whether... Have the doctors told you that fibromyalgia is a prelude to multiple sclerosis?
No, I don't know whether that's true or whether some people just experienced that or not.
That was
at this
his
point,
doctor suggested that about his daughter.
It's not something I've come across as far as I knew. They were two different conditions. I have heard that fibro is very, very similar to ME rather than MS due to the chronic fatigue element.
Yeah, okay.
I'd like to know if there's any foundation to that question.
And which one is ME again?
I can't pronounce it. It's an Italian, isn't it? It's a Latin word. If you think it's chronic fatigue but taken to the extreme, I think that's sort of how it comes about. Yeah.
I don't know either. Let's just leave it at that. Trig PT asks, have you tried a voice recognition system or software such as Voice Attack to help with gaming? So you don't have to type, I guess.
So in gaming, I do a little bit of a chat, just text chat, but I do tend to avoid it. I think when I've tried to do group stuff, I just use TeamSpeak when I remember. Voice recognition, however, I have tried to use for dictation. So Dragon Dictate is the one I use of choice. The problem with gaming and blogging about gaming is that there are so many words that don't exist in the actual English language that you spend half your time teaching the system those words.
Yes.
If you just think about all the names and the terminology and the technology and the planets that aren't actually genuinely, shockingly, in an English dictionary, you can spend half your time trying to teach the system words. And so what I'm finding with blogging particularly is it's actually better for me to do a quarter of a blog post one day, next quarter another day, and just stage it. It means I'm not putting things out as often as I'd like to, but it doesn't hurt my hands half as much. So I've already drafted the main bullet points of what I'm doing on Knights of the Eternal Throne, but I've only done my initial bullet points, and then another day this week or in the weekend maybe I'll do the next bit. So by the end of next week I might have finished that post. So because of what we're talking about in this podcast, and in fact when we're talking about gaming at all, it's probably simpler not to use voice recognition,
Right.
just because of terminology.
Yeah, and I did see on your site you were suggesting different ways to that they can sort of alter SWTOR a little bit so that it would be easier for folks who have your sort of condition to play. And what go ahead and go over some of those and why they would help you and how they would help you.
Sure. Okay, so one of the first things I would be quite happy to accept if they were able to. If you think with Fallen Empire chapters, they're basically like single-player flashpoints. Most of them have a key start and a key end. There are exceptions, so Darvanis is more open world. Some of the ones sat in Zakul are also partially open world and partially behind phases. But if they were to run them like flashpoints, I'd be quite happy if they had do this on normal mode or easy mode, with people who do it on easy mode having lower rewards for doing so. So fewer credits, lower quality gear at the end, lower quality drops on the enemies you kill en route. I'd be quite happy with that. That would enable people like me to enjoy the story, enjoy the cinematics, even enjoy playing it a bit more without the intensity factor. So we still complete it. I'd probably have gotten through more Gemini Deceptions by now if they'd done it that way. And as they've already got the software in place to have a difficulty level based on the same content, then there's no reason they couldn't actually roll that out to, well, next time around, obviously, Eternal Throne chapters. And that would help a lot more to not just enjoy it, but feel okay at the end of it as well. So that's one mechanism I would really like them to consider, given they technically already can do that without much extra development. One of my other bugbears, which some people may have picked upon, is the tendency to autoplay the next chapter, locking out companions, etc. Given I have to do the chapter thing in stages, I did find a workaround for the lockout of companions. Just transport to your stronghold, and none of the companions are locked anymore. So if anyone gets caught in that, try and start a chapter and don't want to, just transport to your stronghold and you can go away and deal with the content and come back. But if you hadn't spotted that, then you're almost forced into either changing which character you're playing, which might not be how you'd originally wanted to play that session, or forced into it in the next chapter. And apart from the initial 4 or 5 chapters of Fallen Empire, I can't do more than 1 or 2 in any one go, because it hurts. They're great and they're great content, but it just hurts at the end of it. And so the auto playing seems to be a trigger mechanism to force everyone to the end as fast as possible, which, based on my previous I don't like power leveling, sort of goes against me in the first place. So so I'm not quite I don't like the auto playing chapters. Something else I thought about since doing that post is how the Old Republic do events. So most of the events in Old Republic are kill X number of enemies, claim X number of prizes to be able to get your gear or whatever. And they are by definition intense, because anytime you kickstart it, the enemies are your level. They could choose to do different events that would suit chronic pain people better, so they could do exploration style ones, or treasure hunting based ones, or maybe even time trials on custom speeders or something like that. Something that isn't just about intensity of combat all the time, but just has a different tack and just makes things a little bit more free and less competitive in a different sense, rather than just having to try and beat the opposition, but actually just come at it from a different angle. That's why I've not really taken much focus on the Rakghoul event or the Gree event, for example. Occasionally I do Bounty Hunting Week, because you're not competing against other people for the same stuff most of the time in bounty hunting. So yeah, that's something else I think they could really do with considering. It's just a completely different angle rather than just recycling the same stuff all the time. Oh, interesting one. Sith Kitty. Interesting perspective. Yes. So Sith Kitty's asking, would you rather BioWare go back to open world style content that you can run past or skip mobs or stick to fewer models of corridor-style content? Yes, would be my short answer to that. I think the freedom to roam where you want to roam and do what you want to do. And I love story, and I've really enjoyed the cinematics. But funneling everybody through the same story, where it doesn't really make any difference whether you're a Jedi, you're a Sith, you're a bounty hunter, you're an agent, whatever.
Right, or even a stealther.
Sorry?
Or even a stealther.
Well, yeah, exactly. So I think having a bit more open world... I love Darvanis for the open world aspects of that. Okay, you still had to do things in the same order, but it just gave you a bit more freedom to go around, scavenging for your crafting materials, or just killing stuff for fun. You can do that then. So I would prefer if they brought out some more worlds, a more open world, do missions in a different order if you want to. Finish it whenever you get around to it, rather than it be a funneling through. And I'd hope that from Eternal Throne we'd get a bit more variation with the classes, which has definitely been lacking in Fallen Empire, in my opinion.
Hawk was asking
about operations. Yeah, he said, are operations out of the question for you, as in ops, or is it possible to last long term through it? Do you have to psych yourself up to get through it? Yes. I don't do ops very often, mostly because there's too many inputs. So if I get too many visual inputs, there's too many things to get my head around at any one time, I struggle. Another reason why I don't do Star Fortresses. And also because they're all unknown, and if you think most ops shout-outs on Fleet say you've got to be geared and have experience to come as part of this group.
Right.
And although I'm pretty much as geared as I can be most of the time, I don't have the experience, but I would have to gear myself up for it. And I recently did a few flashpoints for Dark vs. Light with a couple of guild friends, and I still had to psych myself up for that. And I had to say it was at the end, partway through, I'm gonna have to stop after the next one because I can't do any more. Because of my muscles, they were hurting too much.
Right.
If you get the right group and they're understanding, great, but I don't understand most of operations. They'd have to speak me through it step by step, which can make it a very long, drawn-out process, given how big operations are in the first place.
Yes, they are. And another question from the chat room. Do you play relaxing music during gaming, or do you use the actual in-game music?
Yeah, I've thought about the relaxing music thing. I think I prefer to be absorbed by the environment, so I just let the game music do its thing. I think I was playing other music as well and trying to work out what was going on in the environment. I wouldn't be as absorbed by it. So
Right.
I've pondered it before, and maybe next time I do a bunch of dailies where the environment really doesn't matter, I might try that. I'd thought about it, so thanks for the reminder.
Alright, any more questions? We're pretty much at the length I'd be happy with, but...
I think... Thomas is asking whether I've seen Breaking Bad. The answer is no, I've only heard of it, so I don't know what it's in reference to, sorry.
Yeah.
He may be trolling us, so unless he's someone you know.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Not that I recognise.
Okay. Alright, let's just have a quick pass. If you've asked a question and we haven't answered it, please repeat.
And go ahead and give a shout out about your blog, Martin.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. So I do blog periodically, about once every week or two, usually two-ish, spread between fibro stuff, general health stuff, and gaming stuff. And I am on fibrojedi.me.uk, or just Google Fibro Jedi, and there I will pop up. So, thank you very much.
All right. Yes, and of course you're Fibro Jedi on Twitter as well.
Exactly.
And TrickPT asked, wouldn't turn-based games be better fit for you? As opposed to the usual real-time?
I have tried turn-based... Yeah, I used to play turn-based games, but I have really enjoyed the people to be connected with through Old Republic, and the fact that it's a persistent game and there are lots of different things to do. So I think turn-based games would be great for, like, if I was just on a break somewhere, or I didn't have internet connection but I did have my tablet, that kind of thing. But I don't want to have too many games in my life, else they won't actually get enough attention. So I've got 2 games and I'm going to stick to that for the time being.
And Hawk asked, when you were first diagnosed, did doctors tell you it was in your head? Did you have to change diet, quality of life stuff before they got a bit more serious?
They didn't tell me it was in my head. It did take them about 10 years to figure out what it was, though. So I started having pain in my neck when I was 13, and it took them until I was in my early 20s for them to give me any form of diagnosis. And I'd gone through various therapies and treatments and, well, anything, really, just to get through a pain management clinic at that point, and they'd given up on me. So I have not been told I'm imagining it, and I think they can tell when they see me at a consultation I'm not making this stuff up. But you do struggle. I do struggle with other people wondering whether it's a state of mind rather than a state of body.
Sure.
I have this thing sometimes when people say you're looking good today, and it's usually the days I'm actually in the highest level of pain. So it's really not helpful. The problem with a condition like mine is I just look tired all the time, or people can't see there's a problem. It's called an invisible illness for a reason.
Yeah.
And some people have said it'd be easier if you had a walking stick, or you walked in a chair, you'd get more understanding. And you wouldn't. I mean, I don't want everyone to sort of fall around me trying to pander to me and stuff like that. As was said earlier, a little bit of understanding helps. But equally, I don't want to just overburden people with where I'm at. I'm more than just my condition, but it does make a big difference on my life.
Right. And Thomas is asking if there's any dangers to fibromyalgia.
Odd question.
In itself, no, as in it's not a fatal condition. However, I can't realistically drive very often anymore because the clarity of thought isn't there when I've got the morning brain fog, or if I'm in a lot of pain, it's hard to think. So I can be a danger to myself if I'm not careful, or if I've got to be careful when walking across the street and stuff like that, because I've got to I've got to make sure I think things through first. So it is not dangerous, but some of the things that are symptoms of it could cause interesting situations if not checked properly.
All right.
Wow.
Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
No, thanks for having me on. I'm happy to always answer questions sort of over social. If anyone's got anything particular they want to know about it, feel free to ping me a DM on Twitter, and I might be able to turn it into a blog post. There are people who've got real questions out there, and I'm happy to do that. And otherwise, I will see people another day in game or on social. So thanks for having me here.
And you're most welcome back when your condition allows, just to be a guest of the show.
Would be more than happy to.
Excellent.
More than happy. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. All right, that's the show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Harbinger server, or in our Guild on the Empire side, do a /c join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then let us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to OotiniCast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @OotiniCast. You can find contact details for all of us on our website, OotiniCast.com, which includes how to subscribe to us using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record the show live every Thursday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is Doomsday by Jean-Paul Zogby. And thank you to the chat room, and thank you to Martin, a.k.a. Fibro Jedi.
Take care then.
And we'll see you next week.
All right, guys, keep recording. Everyone, thank you for watching. Next week, I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but it will probably involve that Charles Boyd interview, which had some good stuff in it about the future of the game. So anyway, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next week in episode 277. May the force be with you and serve you well.